Algebra 2, we're going to solve some radical equations now. So there are three basic steps. You're going to isolate the radical or the power. Power just means that it's in exponent form. You're going to take the root or apply the power, and you're going to solve what's left. So for step number 1, in order to isolate, we're first going to have to subtract 4 from both sides. So that gives me the square root of x plus 2 equals 3. Now we're going to get rid of the radical sign. And so if you square both sides, that is what will get rid of the radical, because exponents and radicals are operations that undo each other. So that means that I just have an x plus 2 on the left, and 3 squared equals 9. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides, and x equals 7. In every single one of these problems, you have to check your work, because when you square both sides, sometimes things happen. So let's plug 7 into our original equation. So 7 plus 2 is under the radical, plus 4 equals 7. 7 plus 2 is the square root of 9, plus 4 equals 7. Take the square root of 9, which is 3, plus 4 equals 7, and yes, that is a true statement. So this is how you check your work in this section. Number 2, we have a few more steps. And so the first job is to isolate the radical. You always want to undo addition or subtraction first. So my first move is going to be subtract 1 from both sides. This 5 out in front of the radical is a multiplication. So this says 5 times the cube root of 3n minus 2 equals 15. Part of isolating is to get rid of that 5. We undo multiplication by dividing both sides by 5. It is an illegal move to try to distribute into a radical symbol. So 15 divided by 5 equals 3. Now we have a cube root. And so this time, we are going to have to, instead of squaring both sides, you have to cube both sides. That's a 3, Amy just said so. There we go. So whatever the index is here, you have to raise it to that power to undo it. That just leaves me a 3n minus 2 on the left, and 3 to the third is 27. And then our last step is to just solve. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. 3n is 29. Divide, and n, that is a fraction of 29 thirds. Fractions are answers too. Okay. It does make the checking a little bit more challenging, but we can do it. So 5 times the cube root of 3 times 29 thirds minus 2 is under the radical, plus 1 equals 16. So 3 times 29 thirds, those 3's end up canceling each other out. So then I just have 29 minus 2 left under the radical. 29 minus 2 is 27. I can take the cube root of 27, which is 3. And then if I multiply, 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16. So this 29 thirds is a good answer. Number 3, I have done this one 2 different ways over the years. I'm going to show you how to leave it with an exponent. So this is a power. So we're going to isolate the power here. So it's the stuff to the 1/3. So we need to end up getting this portion on one side of the equation all by itself. We're going to have to add 4 to both sides first. So 2 times 6x minus 10 to the 1/3 equals 4. This is multiplication. You cannot distribute into this parenthesis because it's raised to this exponent. So we're going to divide both sides by 2 first. So 6x minus 10 to the 1/3 equals 2. I can raise both sides of the equation to the same power if I want to. And I am going to raise each side to the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/3 is 3. So I'm going to raise each side to the power of 3. And I do that because when I have this 1/3 times 3, 1/3 times 3 equals 1. They end up canceling each other out. So then I have 6x minus 10, 2 to the 3rd power equals 8. Add 10 to both sides. 6x equals 18. Divide by 6. And x equals 3. So you could do it that way, or what I taught you the other day is if you have x to the 1/3 power, that's the same thing as the cube root of x. And so you can go back and forth between exponential form and radical form if you want to. So if you don't like the fact that this is a power, it is okay to change it into a radical. 2 cube root of 6x minus 10 minus 4 equals 0. So now the problem basically looks like number 2 did, and we're going to go through the same motions. You still have to isolate the radical. So we're going to add 4 to both sides, and then we're going to divide both sides by 2. To get rid of a cube root, we need to cube both sides. Oh, hey, it's the same thing that we did right there. So we cubed both sides of the equation. That is what knocks out the radical. So I have 6x minus 10 equals 8. And then you finish out your steps, and you're still going to get x equals 3 when all is said and done. So anytime that you have powers, especially if the numerator is 1, if this is not really working for you, it's okay to rewrite it in radical form. All right, let's see what we got on the back. However, on the back, we have the same kind of problem. However, we have a 2 here in the numerator. And so it really is best to leave it as a power. So I'm going to isolate the power here. To isolate the power, you're going to have to subtract 6 from both sides. So that gives me 196. I'm going to undo this multiplication by dividing both sides by 4. So 2x minus 1 to the 2/3 equals 49. I'm going to raise each side to the reciprocal of 2/3, which is 3/2. So whatever your power is here, we're going to raise it to the reciprocal. So when you multiply these, that just cancels out and that becomes 1. So that's how I just have a 2x minus 1 on the left. 49 to the 3/2 power would be the same thing as 49, and then use your exponent key, and I would probably just put in 1.5 into my calculator. That's easier. And so that is 343. And then we're going to finish solving, so we're just going to add 1 to both sides. 2x is 344. Divided by 2, and x equals 172. You can check your work, and I assure you it works. Number 5, we can also do 2 different ways as well. We're going to have to isolate our power, and we're going to have to subtract 4 from both sides. So I have 6x plus 3 to the 4th equals 256. So option number 1 is you can take the 4th root of each side, or you can raise each side to the reciprocal of 4, which is the 1/4 power. I'm going to take the 4th root. So when I take the 4th root, that is what knocks out the exponent, and so now I just have a 6x plus 3 on the left. And I'll teach you how to put this into your calculator in a second, but I can tell you it's 4. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides. So 6x equals 1 divided by 6, and x equals 1/6. Let's start off with the 6x plus 3 to the 4th equals 256. So your other option is that I'm going to raise each side to the 1/4 power. So I'm going to raise that to the 1/4, and I'm going to raise that to the 1/4 power. So it cancels out on the left, and I still get 6x plus 3. And 256 to the 1/4 is still 4. All right, so let's start with the one on the right, 256 to the 1/4 power. So if you put 256 and then the caret for your exponent, and then I would do parentheses, 1 divided by 4, and that is how you get 4. To take, if you go back to this step, if you want to take the 4th root, let's see if I can get out of the shadows. Okay, so to take the 4th root of something, you're going to have to hit the second button, and it's right above this caret key right here. So you put in 4, you tell the calculator what root you want, and then you hit the second and that caret key in 256 and hit enter.